Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mastering English Podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam.
And today, we are getting into something so real for, I think, pretty much every English learner.
Mm.
It's that gap, that frustrating gap between, what you know in your head and what actually comes out of your mouth.
The gap between knowing and doing?
Yes. You feel so confident when you're writing, right?
It-
Like you can write this perfect work email, you can read articles.
Your grammar homework is flawless.
Exactly.
Ah.
And then the phone rings. Or you get pulled into a surprise video call.
And it's just
Static.
total brain freeze. It's a complete communication shutdown. The words are there. You can almost taste them, but they just won't come out.
It's not a performance failure, though. That's the key thing to remember. It's a processing issue.
I actually saw this post on Reddit that it described the feeling perfectly. This person said they felt totally proficient with written English.
But in a real conversation, they get that brain freeze, they start stammering, or just go silent. And they use this quote. They said it felt like they had a potato stuck inside my mouth.
The potato. That is such a vivid image, isn't it?
It's so good because you have all the ingredients, the words, but the delivery system is it's blocked.
And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about. We're going to move past the usual textbook stuff.
Right.
We're going to focus on the mental shifts, the actual communication strategies you can use to sound prepared, even when your brain feels slow.
And you promised something kind of surprising today, something about hesitation actually being a good thing.
I did. Yeah, that's the big myth we're going to bust today.
Because I've always been taught, fluent speakers, they don't pause. They just talk.
We're going to show you exactly which type of hesitation, according to the research, can actually make you sound more fluent, not less.
Okay, that sounds like a game changer.
And we'll show you how to use it to your advantage. It's all about how you use that thinking time.
So we're covering the mindset, the science of pausing, and how to deal with that crushing anxiety that causes the freeze in the first place.
And we'll be stopping to unpack some really key vocabulary along the way. Words like small words, conducive, and vicious circle.
And stick around, because we will have a pop quiz at the end to make sure you've got it all locked in.
Right. So before we jump in, just a quick reminder.
Yes, this is the Mastering English podcast, and if you want more deep dives just like this one, please hit that subscribe button right now and maybe give this episode a like.
It really does help us reach more learners who are dealing with that potato in the mouth problem.
Okay, let's do this. Let's start with rewiring the brain.
The foundation of it all.
So if fluency is more of a flow than a test score, how do we even start to create that flow?
It starts by realizing that speaking is a totally different skill from reading or writing.
How so?
Well, writing is analytical. You can plan, you can edit, it's linear. Speaking is spontaneous. You're planning and executing at the same time.
Okay. So when I'm writing an email, I can take 10 minutes to find the perfect word.
Exactly. But on a phone call, you have maybe 2 seconds.
And my writing brain just can't keep up.
It's not built for that speed. But here's the good news. This flow state, it's trainable. The very first step is, believe it or not, a psychological one. It's about belief and identity.
What do you mean by identity?
If you are constantly telling yourself, my English is bad or I'm not fluent, then your brain believes it, and your habits will follow that negative story.
So if I think I'm a terrible speaker, I'll avoid speaking. Which makes me a terrible speaker.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow.
That's why one of our sources suggests something really practical and write down a daily affirmation. Something simple like, I am becoming more fluent every day.
Oh.
But more than that, you have to adopt a fluent identity right now, today, not when you're perfect.
So I have to start acting like a fluent speaker, even with my mistakes. Claim the identity of English speaker, not scared English learner.
Precisely. Your identity shapes your habits. Think of yourself as a driver in training. You don't wait until you're a perfect driver to get in the car. You get in the car to become a good driver.
That's a great analogy. It's about the process,
Yeah.
not some far-off goal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the biggest speed bump for me. The translator in my head.
The translation loop. This is the absolute killer of spontaneity.
It's exhausting.
It is. You hear a question in English, your brain translates it to your native language, you think of the answer in your native language, and then you translate it back into English.
That's 3 steps when it should just be 1. No wonder there's a delay.
It's a huge cognitive tax. It's like trying to run a race while also doing math problems in your head.
So how do you turn the translator off?
You have to bypass it with small, simple steps. Don't try to think about, rocket science in English right away.
Right.
You start with simple internal thoughts. When you're tired, think the English phrase, I'm tired. When you're looking for your wallet, think, where's my wallet?
Ooh, I like that. So just little things. I'm hungry. Let's go. That's interesting.
Exactly. You're training your brain to retrieve those simple thoughts directly in English without the native language filter.
It's like lifting small weights before you try to lift something heavy. You're slowly reducing that mental burden.
And that leads right into the next big mindset shift. Embracing imperfection. The fear of making mistakes is what causes the potato in the mouth.
Totally.
The sources are really clear on this. A mistake is not a failure. A mistake is feedback.
If I can see a mistake as just information, not as proof that I'm bad at this, that changes everything.
It gives you a growth mindset, and this connects perfectly to a story we found about a student dealing with really bad language anxiety.
The classic case of being too self-conscious.
Exactly. He was always focused on how he was speaking. Is my grammar okay? Is my accent right? Do I sound stupid?
The internal critic was just screaming at him.
Right. So the coach gave him a simple, radical instruction. Forget about yourself completely. Stop monitoring your own speech. Just focus on the message. Focus on making the other person understand what you want to say, no matter how messy the delivery is.
Then what happened?
It was immediate and dramatic. The student, who usually stammered, launched into a 5-minute, uninterrupted explanation of how to bake the perfect French croissant.
No way.
Yes. He wasn't thinking about the grammar of the word croissant. He was focused on explaining the complicated process of folding the dough. The message took over.
That's incredible. So the pressure of performing perfectly was blocking the knowledge he already had.
Exactly. When the fear of judgment goes away, you shift from performance to communication.
Okay, so that's the mindset. Adopt the identity, stop translating, and focus on the message. But even with all that, I still sometimes need a second to think.
You do. Everyone does.
So how do I buy that time without sounding awkward or losing my turn to speak?
And that brings us perfectly to part 2. The practical science of hesitation.
I'm ready.
First, we have to normalize it. Spontaneous speech is, by definition, unrehearsed. So hesitation isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign that your brain is working.
That's a huge relief.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to eliminate pauses, it's to make them work for you.
Exactly. And the research breaks these hesitation markers into 3 main types. You have silent pauses, just silence. You have filled pauses, like, and then you have what we're going to call small words. Things like, well, or I mean.
And which one should we be using?
This is where it gets really interesting. This is the proficiency divide we talked about.
Okay.
Low proficiency speakers tend to use a lot of silent pauses and non-words like and The problem with a silent pause, especially one longer than a second, is that it's ambiguous.
What do you mean ambiguous?
Well, the person listening might think you're finished talking.
Oh, right. So they might jump in and I lose my turn.
Precisely. It creates these pragmatic ripples that disrupt the flow of the conversation. The research actually calls it communicatively disturbing.
Communicatively disturbing. Ouch. Okay, so silent pauses are dangerous.
They can be. Now contrast that with what high proficiency speakers do. They rely heavily on small words.
Like, well, I mean,
Exactly. These words act as time-creating devices. They're actual bits of language that signal your thinking, but you're still holding the floor.
But wait, why are those words easier for my brain to grab than the actual word I'm looking for?
That is the key. They're part of what's called formulaic language. They are stored in your brain as a single chunk, not as individual words to be put together.
Like a pre-programmed phrase.
Exactly. Your brain doesn't have to build it. It just grabs the whole chunk. And that buys you 2 seconds while the rest of your brain finds the more complex idea. The listener knows you're still talking.
That is genius. They signal a delay while you're actively keeping control of the conversation.
They do. And they give the listener a little window into your thought process. Well, signals you're considering something. Signals you're about to clarify or elaborate.
So for a B1 learner, the goal should be to consciously replace a silent pause with a small word. Instead of, the report is difficult, it should be, the report is, well, difficult because.
That one small switch is the difference between sounding hesitant and sounding thoughtful.
Okay, we have to stop and unpack this. This idea of small words is too important to just gloss over.
Let's do it.
Okay, hold on. You keep saying small words like, and I mean. I've always been told those are like bad habits, just filler words to avoid.
And in formal writing, that's generally true. They can be unnecessary clutter.
But not in speaking.
But in speaking, they are essential conversational glue. They serve a real purpose.
So what's the official definition here?
A small word, or a discourse marker, if you want the technical term, is a short, multifunctional linguistic form.
What?
Its job is to signal hesitation and, crucially, to keep you in control of the conversation. It buys you planning time for the main part of your sentence.
Let's get into some examples. Show me how one small word can have different uses.
Okay, let's take a really common one. So
Okay.
first, a formal example. Imagine you're in a meeting. You could say, the primary goal of this review is to investigate hesitation markers. Here, is used to clarify or elaborate on your point.
Right, to be more specific.
Exactly. Now, a casual one. We were going to go to the park, but then, the weather got really bad, so we stayed home. Here it's used more as a little correction or a way to shift the story.
I see. It kind of softens the change in plans.
It does. And finally, a funny or weird example. I thought my cat was, trying to send me a secret message, but he was just staring at a fly on the wall.
Okay. So it's used to frame something kind of strange and buy you a second to explain it.
Exactly. It's an incredibly versatile tool.
All right, let's try a role play.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a really complex work question, and you have to answer it without any silent pauses.
Okay, hit me.
Given the new budget constraints from corporate, what's your immediate recommendation for restructuring the marketing team's Q4 priorities?
Well, that's a really important question. We can't just cut projects randomly. We need to look at ROI. So, my initial thought is we should pause the print campaign and reroute that budget to digital.
Perfect. You used, well, to clarify and, to create a sense of shared understanding. It sounded thoughtful, not slow.
And remember the collocations here. You can call them small words, lexicalized hesitations, or discourse markers. They help oil the wheels of the conversation.
Okay, so that's how we buy 2 seconds? What about when we need more time, like 5 or 10 seconds?
For that, we move to a more advanced technique. One that not only buys you time, but also makes you look incredibly engaged and smart.
I'm in. What is it?
Paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing. I think of that as a writing skill for avoiding plagiarism. How does that work in a fast conversation?
It's the ultimate time buyer, but it depends on one thing we mentioned earlier, active listening.
Right.
Most people don't really listen. They hear just enough to start planning their own response while the other person is still talking.
Which means you can totally miss the real question.
Absolutely. Paraphrasing forces you to stop, listen deeply, pull out the most important part of what was said, and then state it back to them, usually in fewer words.
Okay, break down the benefits for me. Why is repeating the question back so powerful?
It works on 3 levels. For your audience, for strategy, and for your own brain.
Okay.
First, for the audience, it's about validation. When you say, so what you're asking is, the other person feels heard. They feel respected.
It builds rapport.
Instantly.
Right.
And it gives them a chance to correct you if you misunderstood. Second, strategically, it's a management tool. In a meeting, it makes sure everyone heard the question.
That's a good point.
And it is the most polite way to interrupt someone who is rambling. You can gently cut in and say, so, just to clarify, the core issue you're raising is X. You take back control.
That's brilliant. It's a professional way of saying, please get to the point.
And third, and this is the most important part for fluency, is the cognitive benefit. Paraphrasing is what's called a lower-order cognitive skill. It doesn't require the same high-level creative energy as forming a brand new complex answer.
So while my mouth is busy saying the paraphrase,
The rest of your brain is freed up to work on the actual answer in the background.
I'm talking and thinking at the same time. You've turned a potential silence into a moment of strategic planning.
Precisely. And this leads to the most advanced level of this skill, reframing.
Conversational judo, you called it.
It is. Once you've paraphrased to confirm you understand, you can subtly shift the focus of a difficult question to ground that you are more comfortable with.
Give me a solid example of that. How would a learner use that?
Okay, imagine a client asks, why is your product so much more expensive than your competitors? A simple paraphrase would be, so you're asking why we cost so much, which sounds defensive.
It reinforces the negative frame of expensive.
Right. A skilled speaker reframes it. They might say, that's a great question. So what you're really asking about is the long-term value and total cost of ownership.
You've shifted the conversation from price to value.
Exactly. You're now talking about maintenance savings, reliability, things where your product is strong. Instead of just defending a number, it's a pivot.
That's a high-level skill. Okay, this is another one we need to stop and unpack. The actual phrases for paraphrasing.
Let's do it.
Okay, so if I need to buy time, I'm worried I'll just, repeat what they said word for word, which sounds like I'm stalling.
Yeah.
What are some smooth, professional ways to start a paraphrase?
The opening phrase is everything. It's the signal that you're confirming, not just echoing. So remember the definition. Paraphrasing is restating the core meaning in your own words, usually shorter, to confirm understanding.
Right. So what are the openers?
Let's do 3 levels again. First, the formal one. Your question about our Q3 marketing budget is important because it connects directly to our hiring plans. You're validating the question and framing your answer.
I like that. Your question is important because...
Exactly. Now, casual. So, if I'm hearing you right, you're asking about who's bringing the snacks to the party. Simple confirmation.
If I understand correctly. Classic.
Right. And now, funny or weird one. Okay, let me try to summarize that amazing 10-minute story. Are you basically saying we should order pizza for dinner?
Haha, perfect. For cutting through the noise and getting to the point.
Exactly.
All right, let's try a scenario. I'm going to give you a really long, confusing, multi-part question. You have to use a paraphrase to manage it.
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Okay, so given the recent supply chain disruptions and the fact that our main competitor just launched a new feature, I need to know first, what's the impact on our production timeline for the new release? And second, should we push back the launch date or just launch without that one feature that isn't ready yet?
Takes a beat. Okay, that's a lot to unpack. So if I understand correctly, the core decision you're asking me to weigh in on is a strategic one. Should we prioritize a timely launch with fewer features or a delayed launch with the full feature set, all in light of these new market pressures?
Wow. Yes. That is exactly what I was asking. You bought yourself about 7 seconds, you sounded super intelligent, and you made my messy question sound clear.
And that's the power of the paraphrase. So remember the collocations.
Yeah.
You can briefly paraphrase, accurately paraphrase, or paraphrase the meaning. It's a sign of a great listener.
Okay, so we have the mindset and we have the communication tactics, but none of it matters if that wave of anxiety hits and we just freeze.
The potato in the mouth moment.
Yes.
Here.
And our sources have a perfect term for how this happens, the vicious circle of anxiety.
It's such a good description. The cycle works like this. You feel anxious about speaking, so you avoid practicing.
Right.
Because you don't practice, your skills don't improve, which makes you feel even more anxious the next time you have to speak.
And the circle just gets tighter and tighter. It feeds itself.
And it's not just a feeling. The research we looked at shows that anxiety causes a real cognitive shutdown.
Like it physically blocks your brain.
Yes. When you're in that high anxiety fight or flight state, your brain literally suppresses access to complex memory. You forget words you know perfectly well. The grammar rules you studied just vanish.
So even if I'm super prepared, the anxiety can just wipe the slate clean?
It can. The emotional state can override the preparation. That's why breaking the cycle is about more than just trying harder. It's about changing the conditions.
How do we do that?
We have to work on 2 fronts: the external environment and our internal self-practice.
Okay.
For the environment, the goal is to create a space that is supportive, that is welcoming, a space that is conducive to language learning.
Ooh, I like that word, conducive.
Yeah.
It sounds very intentional.
It is, and the research gives us real strategies for this. For example, in a classroom, teachers should delay error correction.
So don't jump on every little mistake immediately.
Right. Focus on the message first. Also, use more group and pair work so the spotlight isn't always on one person, and use fun stuff like games or music or films, things that lower the pressure.
That makes the environment feel safer, more conducive to taking risks.
Exactly.
But what about for people learning on their own? How do they fix their internal environment?
The internal work is about repetition and, crucially, redefining what success looks like.
Wow.
The biggest mental shift, something that came up again and again in the sources, is to let go of a perfect native-sounding accent.
Really? But isn't that the goal?
It's an unrealistic and anxiety-inducing goal for most learners.
So if I stop trying to sound like I'm from London, what should I be aiming for?
Aim for intelligibility, simply being understood clearly. That's it. Your listener is far less critical of your accent than you are. The goal is communication, not imitation.
It is so liberating. Just be understood. That takes so much pressure off.
It does.
Okay, this feels like a good spot to pause and really lock in these last few vocabulary items. Starting with that phrase that describes the self-sabotage, a vicious circle.
A very important concept to understand.
When I feel trapped by my fear, and that fear makes me avoid the very thing I need to do, how can I use vicious circle to explain that pattern?
It's the perfect term for it. A vicious circle is a negative chain of events where the solution to one problem just creates another problem, which makes the first one worse. It's a downward spiral that powers itself.
It's a loop with no easy exit. Okay, give me the examples.
Okay, a formal one. The company was trapped in a vicious circle of debt and budget cuts. The cuts hurt their service, which lost them customers, which reduced their revenue even more.
A systemic problem.
Exactly. Now, a casual one, very relatable. My lack of sleep and my dependence on coffee are a total vicious circle. The coffee messes up my sleep, so I wake up tired and need more coffee.
I feel seen. Okay, and a funny one.
My dog chasing his own tail is a hilarious vicious circle. The more he spins, the dizzier he gets, which makes him fall over and get even more determined to catch the tail.
Okay, got it. Let's do a quick role play on how to identify and break one.
Go ahead, I'll state my problem. I get so nervous before meetings that I over-prepare for hours, which means I'm too tired to actually perform well in the meeting.
Ah, okay. It sounds like you're trapped in a vicious circle of anxiety and exhaustion. Maybe the way to break the circle isn't more preparation, but better rest.
Exactly. You identified the pattern perfectly. The key collocations are break the vicious circle or being trapped in a vicious circle.
Okay, next one. The skill we all want, responding fast.
Yeah.
How do I use the idiom thinking on your feet to describe that ability?
To think on your feet means to react and improvise effectively, right in the moment, without any prior preparation. It's the opposite of a brain freeze. It's mental agility.
It sounds athletic. Give me the examples.
Formal. The CEO's ability to think on her feet during the unexpected questions from journalists was truly impressive. It's about professional poise under pressure.
Right.
Casual. When my boss asked why I was late, I had to think on my feet and come up with a quick story about a traffic jam.
A less noble use, but definitely thinking on your feet. And a weird one.
The power went out during my presentation, so I had to think on my feet and just act out the sales data using hand puppets I found in a drawer.
Huh. That is definitely improvising. Okay, so how does practicing help you learn to think on your feet?
It's about anticipation. When you practice guessing the types of questions you might get, you're building mental shortcuts. You're not memorizing answers, you're preparing frameworks.
So you're not starting from zero.
You're not starting from zero, so your brain can react faster. You're ready to improvise.
Okay, quick role play. I'm going to put you on the spot. We've got two proposals for the company retreat, the beach trip or the mountain cabin. We have to decide now which one and why.
Okay. Gotta think on my feet here. Well, given that it's August, the beach is going to be really crowded, so I'd say the mountain cabin. It offers a better environment for team-building activities without the distractions.
Nice. A quick logical answer. You used the phrase and demonstrated the skill.
And remember the collocations? The capacity to think on your feet, or you need to learn to think on your feet.
Perfect. Last one. Let's go back to that idea of the perfect learning environment. The word was conducive. How do I use that to sound, a bit more advanced?
Conducive is a fantastic word. It means helpful, favorable, or creating the right conditions for a specific outcome to happen. It implies that the environment was designed for success.
It sounds very deliberate. Okay, let's hear the examples.
Formal. The quiet atmosphere of the library and its extensive resources are highly conducive to deep research and study.
Okay, makes sense.
Casual. Turning off my phone notifications is conducive to actually finishing my work.
Simple, but it fits perfectly. And the funny or weird one?
This giant comfy armchair and a warm blanket are extremely conducive to me taking an unplanned afternoon nap.
Huh. Okay, I get it. It creates the perfect conditions for something. Let's do the final skit, contrasting two places.
Sounds good. I need to practice my English speaking. Should I go to a loud, crowded party or a small, quiet book club?
Well, if your goal is lots of low-pressure small talk practice, the party might actually be conducive to that. But for deep, focused conversation, the quiet book club is definitely more conducive to meaningful language exchange.
A perfect distinction. You see how it's about matching the environment to the goal? Key collocations are conducive to learning, conducive to growth, or mutually conducive.
Awesome. That's a great set of vocabulary.
It is.
All right. Before the quiz, let's talk about one common mistake I see learners make, and I've definitely made it myself.
Okay, what is it?
It's about using authentic materials. I know it's good to listen to real-world English, so I think, okay, I'm just going to jump in and watch a super fast technical documentary meant for native-speaking experts.
Yes. The go big or go home approach to learning.
Exactly.
It's a mistake that comes from a good place, from ambition, but it can be really counterproductive. It creates a huge frustration factor.
Well, isn't challenging yourself a good thing?
It is, but there's a limit. Remember our word conducive. An overwhelming environment is not conducive to learning. If the material is so difficult that you only understand, say, 30% of it, you're not learning, you're just getting frustrated. And that frustration leads to you giving up.
It reinforces that negative feeling that my English isn't good enough.
Exactly. It feeds right back into that vicious circle of anxiety.
So what's the right way to do it?
Find authentic material that's engaging and just slightly above your current level. A good movie, your favorite songs, a podcast like this one that's designed to be clear.
Something that stretches me but doesn't break me?
Precisely. The goal is to finish the material feeling successful and motivated, not defeated. That's what creates an environment that's truly conducive to learning.
That is great advice. Okay, I think it's time. Let's see if all this has sunk in.
It's pop quiz time. Are you ready to think on your feet?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Question 1. If you're buying time in a conversation with a phrase like, I mean, or, instead of just being silent, those phrases are called what?
Those are small words.
Correct. Fluent bridges. Okay, question 2. If you can handle an unexpected question without freezing, improvising a great answer on the spot, you have the ability to do what?
You have the ability to think on your feet.
Perfect. Question 3. What do you call that self-defeating loop where your anxiety about speaking makes you avoid it, which just makes you more anxious?
That is being trapped in a vicious circle.
And we must break it. Yes. Question 4. What's the strategy where you restate someone's question in your own words to confirm you understood and to buy yourself thinking time?
That is paraphrasing.
Excellent. And last question. If a study environment is perfectly set up for success with lots of support and positive feedback, we can say that environment is what to learning.
That environment is conducive to learning.
5 for 5. Nicely done.
I feel like I actually have real tools now, not just a vague goal to speak faster.
That's the whole point. So to summarize the 3 biggest takeaways from today. First, start using small words like, well, and I mean to replace silent pauses. Second, practice paraphrasing to control the conversation and give your brain time to think. And third, build your ability to think on your feet by anticipating topics and practicing improvisation.
And for your micro challenge this week, we have one small task for you. Try to use the word conducive in a sentence. Describe your perfect study environment.
Tell a friend, write it down, just practice producing the word. That's how it sticks.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to Mastering English Podcast.
And I'm Sam.